Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone, episode number 146 for the 6th of August 2011. Richard Saunders here with you once again from a very sunny, lovely, warm, wintry Sydney, Australia. If you're in Sydney right now, what are you doing listening to the podcast? Get outside and enjoy the wonderful weather we're having. On this week's show, much more from TAM9 in Las Vegas. Although I don't remember much about it at all, apparently I was there. I must have been there because I interviewed Ross and Carrie from the Oh No, Ross and Carrie podcast. Their philosophy is they do the wacky, strange things so you don't have to. What an interesting interview coming up with Ross and Carrie. I'm so glad I did this interview because I can scarcely remember meeting them. But then again, I scarcely remember anything from TAM9. It's very sad. Never mind. After that, maybe we have someone who could possibly help me with my various problems. It's Dr. Sefan Sojka. Ah, yes, Dr. Sefan Sojka back again, this time with good advice about your third eye. Third eye health with Dr. Sefan Sojka, coming up a bit later in the show. Then it's back to Las Vegas where Dr. Rachie Reports. She interviews Captain Disillusion. A great friend of the Skeptic Zone, Captain Disillusion. If you haven't seen his stuff, check it out. There'll be links in the show and on the show notes too. He does wonderful things deconstructing online videos, and he's a great guy. Then we have a mini think tank. A very mini think tank. It's just me and Maynard having a chat over some lunch. It was very nice to catch up with Maynard every now and then, have a chat, and we talk about skeptical issues. I hope you enjoy it. And to wrap up the show, we go back to Las Vegas. It's a bit of a yo-yo thing happening here. Lucky for me, very lucky for me, Dr. Rachie did some audio recording of the Skeptics Guide to the Universe dinner auction, where they kindly invited me to be the auctioneer. And we pick up the action right at the very last item up for bid, which was the chance for someone in the audience to be a guest rogue on the Skeptics Guide to the Universe. Hear the auction, and you'll find out how much that prize actually went for in the end. It's very exciting for me to listen to that. I almost wish I could be in the audience bidding as well. So that's the show for today. Now, what are we going to have? Let's see. Last week it was chicken soup, and I actually had a Twitter from someone saying how much they enjoyed hearing that I was going for chicken soup, chicken noodle soup. It was good, folks. But today's a bit warmer. Actually, today's a bit warmer. You know what? I'm not going to actually have any soup or coffee or vodka or anything like that. I'm going to run downstairs. I'm going to get some sourdough bread. Nice thick slice of sourdough. Going to get some Swiss cheese, some hot English mustard smeared lightly, maybe a bit of lettuce, wafer of ham. Yeah, that'll do me. Oh, what, the show? Yeah, sorry. And I'll let you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Well, we're here still at TAM Las Vegas, having a wonderful time being run around. So many people here, folks, I can't even begin to tell you. And then I saw a couple of people in the hall, and all I could say was, oh no, Ross and Carrie. Delightful people, and I've come here to interview them. Hello, Ross and Carrie.
Hello.
Hello. Why would I say, oh no, Carrie? What's the story?
Well, generally people say that when we enter a room anyway. But the idea is that we show up to all these various organizations that make funny claims, claims that sound unlikely to you at first. So we've been ear candling. We've joined up with the Kabbalists and learned about their faith.
Went to a Sikh Gurdwara.
Went to a Sikh.
Highly recommend that.
Yep, place of worship. And then most recently investigated the Mormon Church. Did a 6-month investigation where we became Mormons. And so we show up and ask these really tough questions.
Yeah. So you guys are not armchair skeptics at all.
Right, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Like, we do a bit of research. We go in with foreknowledge. We look at, websites and read up a bit. But we actually go there and check it out firsthand. And like I said, start asking those questions. Find out when they ask you for money, how they respond to the questions you ask, and then we report back on that.
I like the motto of the show. We show up so you don't have to.
That's right. Yeah, because, you hear about all these things all the time. You hear about ear candling. Maybe you've read an article about it. But hardly anyone knows someone who's gone and done it.
Well, I certainly haven't.
And then I got ear candled, so then I can report back on this is what is actually happening, and we bought one ourselves and burnt it without an ear, and lo and behold, there's still wax in there.
Right.
I'm shocked.
Colored like earwax.
I'm shocked. I've bought ear candles.
Oh, you have? So they're legal in Australia?
Yes.
Because they're illegal
sadly,
in Canada.
yeah.
Okay.
So I've gone through that process. I've argued with the pharmacist who sold me the ear candles. Said, why are you selling me this rubbish? Here's your money. But I have never had one stuck in my head.
Yeah.
So you both did.
Ross did.
Just me on that one.
It's funny. I was just saying today, I was not scared at all to join the Mormons or to hang out with the Kabbalists, but ear candling, no. I'm not sticking a flaming candle in my ear. So Ross did that one.
Where are you based?
Los
Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of, crazy claims, wild claims, maybe unsubstantiated claims in the Los Angeles area. So that's what we check out.
So the idea is you do all these wacky, crazy things or interesting things,
Yeah.
then you report
Exactly.
on your podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, just tell you the experience and kind of our own reactions to what people said, and we kind of recount some of the funny things they say.
Right. And sometimes half of the humor comes from us reacting badly to it. Sometimes we fumble ourselves.
And we've got a rating system afterwards, so we rate it on a danger scale, how dangerous is it?
A pseudoscience scale.
How creepy is it? And the pocket trainer value.
Yeah.
How much,
How much it'll drain
money.
your pocket.
Exactly.
Wow.
Oh, it's kind of
And
self-explanatory.
How long has your podcast been going?
Just
a
4
few
months.
Yeah.
Really?
4 or 5
March,
months.
Really?
March 2011.
And it's called the Ono podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's called Oh No, Ross and Carrie, but
no.
It's at Ono
onopodcast.com.
not to be confused with Yoko Ono.
No.
OHNO
Exactly.
podcast.com.
That's true.
Yes.
I
People
wonder
can
if Yoko Ono has a podcast. She might be competing for web space with us.
Let's not worry about her.
Or Facebook.com/ONRAC.
That's
Yes.
right. For
All
Oh No,
right.
Ross and Carrie.
That's right.
So clever. Now, tell me about your adventures into Mormonism then. This is what sparked my interest when
Yeah.
we met briefly before, I think, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'd both always been interested in Mormonism, and it was one of the things that we talked about from the very beginning that we wanted to investigate.
Right.
But we knew it would take a really long time to do all the classes.
Carrie had just gotten a Book of Mormon. I had one from years ago. I have Mormons in my family, so we both knew a bit about Mormonism, but you started talking to one of their online representatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to Mormon.org and chatted with somebody and asked them lots of tough questions, and they said, basically, stop asking me questions and go meet your missionaries. I'm tired of you.
Because,
So-
there's these dedicated missionaries
Yeah.
between 18 and 20 years old, and this is their job.
And then they call them the elders, don't they?
Yeah.
They're much
Which is
younger.
adorable.
They're younger than us, but they are elders, and, sweet guys.
So we started going to these classes, and there's are there 6 classes, I think, that you have to take before?
8 classes.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Before...
And each one was taking 2.5 hours. So we've got busy schedules, and we're trying to, after work, meet up with these Mormons and going on till like 8:30 at night.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do they sell the whole Joseph Smith and the hat and the...
See, that's what I was so interested
Yeah.
in. Like, how do you tell that to somebody?
With a
Straight to
straight
their face.
face, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, they leave out some details that you hear in popular culture. Like the hat actually isn't even mentioned. We had to bring it up. Like, doesn't he use seer stones and look into hats?
Right, they don't tell you about the Urim and the Thummim and
Yeah.
that whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do tell you, well, I get it. This is maybe hard to swallow, but if you ask the Heavenly Father, He will reveal to you the truth of it. So it's this appeal to personal revelation.
Right.
That we get it, you're logical people, and they respected that. We would tell them, we're very skeptical of this. We have a really hard time buying into this, but they would say, that's fine, just read and ask the Heavenly Father. Pray.
And it's interesting, one of the tactics that I found they used, and I don't think we even talked about this on the show, is that instead of actually giving us evidence for their claims, they would give us counter evidence to what they expected our opposition to be. Okay. So they'd say, instead of actually saying, like, well, these are the documents we have that support the idea that Joseph Smith was telling the truth, they would say, well, Jesus, if he came to Earth, he would probably want to talk to lots of people, right? So it would make sense that there are other documents that,
Sort of moving the goalposts a little, isn't it?
Oh, sure.
I don't know if a little is right.
To the next field.
Right.
Defining all the terms.
Yes, not addressing the issue.
And we would try to kind of probe out to see, do they have anything to say about the archaeology of South America and why we don't have any evidence that Jesus actually came over. And we found, actually, they brought in a reinforcement on our third meeting with them, because clearly we'd been asking more questions and studied more than anybody they talked to previously. And so they brought in, somebody who was more experienced. And so we had 3 of them now meeting with us. And we found that their response would be, that's an excellent question. So insightful. But, we wonder that too. We've just put that on the shelf. And we'll ask the Heavenly Father when we get to heaven.
Oh, well, hey!
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, at some point we started to be like, okay, but that's a question I want answered now.
kind of important, yeah. But they just kind of, say, all right, we've gotten to this point where it's kind of do or die. Like, either we can explain this or we can't. And they'd say, yeah, let's table that for the afterlife.
I like that idea. So you get to the afterlife and you put it to God, and God says, I tell you what, let's discuss this tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right, we have some harps to play for now.
So, how long was this whole Mormon adventure?
It's still going on.
It's still going on?
Yeah.
Goodness me.
Actually, as of this conversation, we just got confirmed in the church last Sunday.
Which means we received the Holy Spirit.
Well, there you go.
The whole thing in front of the congregation. It's a large congregation, hundreds of people. And, they surround us, put their hands on our heads, and they said this prayer. And the Sunday before that, we were baptized into the church, so we got to wear these white jumpsuits.
Yes.
And we'll be talking more about this in the upcoming episode, giving the details on that.
Wow.
But I've invited the elders to my work and shown them around, and we've taken them out for dinner. They're great guys, really nice.
I'm sure they are. Look, I've met in the street and at my door elders from the Church of Latter-day Saints, and these kids, well-meaning kids, aren't they?
Oh,
by and large, from good families and not an evil thought in their heads.
They're incredibly sweet. I mean, we like hanging out with them. We think of them as friends, which is what's made this really difficult as the end approaches.
Of course, also that a percentage of them, and I'm not sure what the percentage is, will crash. One day.
Yes.
It will come to a very unhappy end for them.
Yes, I think the percentage is probably quite high. Yeah. I know several
former Mormons.
Ex-Mormons.
It's sort of sad in a way knowing that that's in their future.
It is, but the flip side of that is that if they are believing in a system that's ultimately not based in the truth and might be detrimental to them, then you want to help them move past that.
And what we're doing is unique because we are going there and getting involved firsthand. And, it's a tightrope that we're walking because, we're trying to be as honest as possible with them. But at some point we're going to have to say, sorry, we did give this an honest try. Yeah. But we did come into it with, a certain viewpoint, and we left probably with the same viewpoint.
Yeah.
And we don't want to hurt them.
No, you don't.
Because they're good people. So I think we've been introducing some skeptical ideas. And it was amazing. In the conversations we had with them, I was able to introduce some very skeptical thoughts. And they would always say, wow, that's really interesting. I never thought of that before. So we're introducing some of these ideas. We don't know how it's going to affect them when we say, sorry, we don't believe this.
And we are going to tell them, we've agreed at this point, that we'll tell them we do this podcast and... we've been completely honest with you about our level of faith.
Yeah.
But, we haven't completely divulged some of our motivation. And I think that will probably hurt them. And that is the
It's an interesting path you're following there, if I can put it in that way. But what's on your horizon then after this?
Oh, kind of
you're going to infiltrate the skeptical movement.
We've been doing that for the last 7 years.
That's actually been suggested, but I wish we could tell you all of them. But at the end of every episode, we give a hint about what the next one's about.
Oh, that's fine.
Sometimes it rhymes. Sometimes it's in musical form.
But let's say you have a wide selection of things coming up, possibly. Or something you'd like to do anyway.
Yes.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And some of them, we want to lay off religion for a little bit.
Right.
I don't blame you.
We've been doing that,
We've been doing that a little bit lately. So we'll probably go into some other, like, alternative medicine practices, maybe some ghost hunting or Reiki or something
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yes, hang out I've done that, hanging out at haunted houses.
Oh, how was it?
Yeah, nothing happens.
I mean, we've had a lot of these experiences before. We're the type of people that do this anyway.
Right.
I mean, with my involvement in the Independent Investigations Group, I've been to, UFO
a UFO seance.
Yeah.
That's
I just made up a whole new category.
I like that. I like
You've
it.
been to a seance. I've been to
You can go to an alternative UFO seance.
I can't even think of the word right now. It was a meditation, a UFO meditation.
A UFO meditation?
Yes. I've been to a UFO-related baptism, if that makes any sense.
No, but
with the Raelians. So, I've already done this kind of stuff, and we figured how perfect would it be for us just to report back on it.
Yeah, and actually, we had actually been to the Kabbalah Center together before we even conceived of the show, because that's the kind of stuff we like to do. Right. So we went to the Kabbalah Center, hung out for like 2 hours, talked about it afterward, told everybody, and everyone
Is that why people say, "Oh no, Ross"?
Maybe. Yeah.
I'm on the mailing list for so many woo and pseudoscience and kind of ultra conservative groups. I love to know what they're up to. So I'm constantly getting, and you too, right?
Yeah, and we're both former believers, so I think that might play into it too.
Yeah, I have a lot of scriptural knowledge because I came out of an evangelical Christian upbringing, and so I was one of those biblical literalists. I was taught creationism in high school, and so I know those arguments, and I know when they start talking about Bible passages, I say, "Oh, you mean John 14:26 or whatever." I know where they're going with it, and the Mormons really respected that too.
Yeah, I've got a Book of Mormon at home, and I've flipped through it, but it's wacky.
It's a little funny.
It's wacky stories.
We should tell you the church services, because they really want you to go there and be experiencing the church. 3 hours.
3 hours. Well, the actual service is an hour, but then you go to a scripture class after that, or a doctrine class after that. And then after that, the men and the women are split up, and the women go to Relief Society, which is dreadfully depressing, and the men go to a priesthood meeting.
Priesthood meeting, yeah.
Wow. So 3 hours in total.
Do you think that's part of the indoctrination?
Oh,
the length of time that you're...
Absolutely. Well, we've all heard about the effect. The more time you put into it, the more you sacrifice, the more money you give, the more inclined you are to believe it. And if you're giving 1/10 of your income...
Which you're required to do.
And a slice of your time.
A huge slice of your time. And absolutely, as soon as you show up, they want to know your name, and it's not enough. They want to know your last name. Oh, where do you live? They say, we want to make sure, you're at the right ward. But they want to know the intersection where you live. They want to know your wife and your child's name.
And it goes on and on, huh?
But, just to play devil's advocate, I mean, we probably spend more than 3 hours every week at the Center for Inquiry. So the question is always going to be, is this based in fact or not? So, so far in our investigation, we haven't found evidence that it's based in fact, and that's the central
I spend more
point.
than 3 hours a week on the internet.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
But immediately they're making these connections. They're kind of giving you duties saying, oh, you could help out cleaning the church, or you could help stocking the cans for the shelter, or, whatever it may be. They immediately pull you into this group, give you responsibilities, and very quickly you form these friendships and you feel this sense of duty to other people.
Right.
And that makes it very hard to get out of because you're forming those connections.
Right.
This is basic human behavior.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Of course.
They're tapping into that and using it very effectively.
Right, and providing a whole social network. And
but it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Even here at TAM, it'll happen.
Sure.
You help out, you do what you can.
Yeah.
We all do. I mean,
Of course, yeah. And I mean, when they ask us to do things, we're like, sure. I mean, we think of these people as like wonderful people, friends, and it's really easy to be like, sure, we'll help you set that up.
So you've also been dealing or met with ex-Mormons.
Yeah, well, Brian Keith Dalton, who plays Mr. Deity,
yes.
is he's actually our theme music composer, and he's on our consultant team. So he consulted our Mormonism journey because he grew up in the Mormon Church and was a missionary. Obviously, fell away.
Oh, that would be so funny! Knock, 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 and it's.
And it's
Mr. Deity.
oh, what would you pay for that footage?
Yeah. That would be good.
But yeah, we have a few ex-Mormon friends.
Yeah.
But Brian's been the most active in the investigation. He's really heard about every single step and given us.
We both had 2 different ex-Mormon friends who showed up for our baptism. They actually came and sat in and watched.
Watched us get dunked.
Dunked? You got dunked?
Oh yeah, we both did.
Yeah. Like in the water and
Yeah.
Full immersion.
Yes, full
None of
immersion.
that Presbyterian head sprinkling or anything.
That Nancy-pantsy little flick of water.
They put their arm around you. It's actually very sexy. I picked
For her,
Where's the photo?
I picked the elder who I have a little bit of a crush on to do this.
There you go.
But they put their arm around you and speak in this very loud, booming voice, and then dunk you, backwards as if you're dunking someone in dancing.
I was just going to say, like you're dancing.
What are you wearing?
White jumpsuit.
Yeah.
A white. Now it all makes
With
sense.
nothing but underwear underneath.
Right. Yeah.
Special underwear.
No,
Not in that
no
case.
special
Not
underwear.
special.
That requires the temple recommend.
Oh,
that's,
dear. Okay.
That's a lot of tithing in a year off.
I wish I could see the picture. So you come up, all water coming off, and suddenly there you go.
And then, then you're... I guess the purpose of the baptism is so that you can be saved, but then you still have to receive the Holy Spirit and be confirmed in the church in order to be a full-fledged
Ritual
member.
upon ritual upon ritual. Isn't
Right.
it? I mean, that's nothing unusual.
Right, of course.
I'm looking at a photograph now. Ladies and gentlemen, goodness me. That's going on the cover of the next Skeptic. No, that's not very sexy at all.
It's funny. They gave me a jumpsuit. I don't think I told you this, Ross. They gave me one that I put on, and it was like really, really tight. And they immediately were like, "No!"
Well, I'm sure you have a lovely, flattering figure, but in this you never know.
Yeah,
well, folks, imagine a white potato sack, and that's the dunking outfit. There you go.
The intent
Pretty
is
much.
like that of Kellogg's cereal, to remove any sexual desire.
Now, very fetching, very fetching. Well, look, what an interesting course you are taking, both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's fascinating, and I'm sure your listeners will be eagerly awaiting each episode. How often does the podcast come out?
About once a month right now.
We're moving to exactly once a month. You've got a schedule for us.
Yeah.
So,
The investigations take a lot of time. So
And how long is each episode?
under an hour always, usually around
That's cool.
40 minutes.
Nice,
Usually.
nice chunk-sized bites
Yeah.
people can listen to while they're walking the dog or
Yeah.
or whatever they're doing. Oh no! Ross and Carrie, the podcast, the adventure, the fascinating insight into other people's belief systems, and you can find that at ohnopodcast.com or Facebook/ONRAC. Ross and Carrie, thank you for being on the Skeptic Zone.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, this is Carrie Poppy.
I'm Ross Blotcher.
Oh, hey, Ross.
Hey, we're from a podcast called
Oh, no, Ross and Carrie.
We find out what happens when you show up and ask questions.
We've hung out with the Kabbalists.
The Mormons,
We've gone and gotten ear candles.
gone to the Sikhs.
We show up so you don't have to.
So find out where we're going next.
We'll even have special episodes where we have famous guests like Brian Dalton from Mr. Deity.
You heard that awesome theme music. He wrote that.
You should come visit us at ohnopodcast.com or
Facebook.com/
/OnRack. What the hell's OnRack, Ross?
ONRAC.
Oh no, Ross and Carrie.
That's our show.
That's so smart. Come join us.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sefan Sojka, lead astral ophthalmologist at the Infinite Vision Third Eye Hospital. You may find it hard to believe, but the third eye can suffer the same kinds of debilitating infectious and degenerative diseases as your other two eyes. Ectoplasmic conjunctivitis, pineal cataracts, inflammation of the etheric tube, clairvoyant macular degeneration, precognitive retinal dystrophy, and even such afflictions as stigmata astigmatism, where your phantasmagorical crucifixion wounds can appear blurry, and tunnel vision, where you can only see dead people if they are standing right in front of you. Here at the Infinite Vision Third Eye Hospital, we've seen it all. Pardon the pun. We once treated a chakra balancing practitioner with third eye colour blindness who had been mixing up the chakral aura glows of their patients. They came to us in a terrible state after a chakra balancing went horribly wrong and they'd stuck their patient's head chakra right up their base chakra. No matter what kind of tertiary ocular affliction you may be suffering from, the Infinite Vision Third Eye Hospital's team of transcendental optometrists and ophthalmic faith healers has divined the perfect treatment to restore your 20/20 mystical vision. Your first consultation and diagnosis requires you to do nothing at all, as it is conducted entirely by remote viewing. Payment for the session is also made by remote billing via PayPal. We usually begin with a third eye test using a standard chakra chart. Almost everybody can clearly make out the 7 chakras of the elephant on the first row, but as we move through the chart down through hippopotamus chakras, donkey chakras, pig, goat and poodle chakra, any loss of clarity is quickly identified. Until now, only the most gifted prophets and psychics can make out the third eye chakra chart bottom row of pygmy possum chakra, Etruscan shrew chakra, bumblebee bat, mouse lemur, pygmy marmoset, African pygmy mouse, and of course the Cuban zunzun bird chakra. Once we've identified the focal limits of your paramnesia and psychopathology, a treatment regime is quickly imagined, and we have developed some truly unbelievable treatments. Reiki eye drops, which are applied by an extremely dexterous waving of the hands and squeezing of the thumb and forefinger together above the forehead, whilst the patient is in the Setapanhasana yoga position. Or we may apply a detox forehead pad to draw the toxins out right through the front of your skull. In some cases, we may also flip the pad over and draw the toxins right back in again to kill the ectoplasm that might be causing any secondary, tertiary ophthalmic inflammation. A corrective prescription crystal monocle, worn either clipped to the nasal arch bridge of a standard pair of spectacles or sewn into a colourful headband, will focus your visions and allow you to see deep into the realms of invisible entity manifestations unseen by even the most experienced parapsychologist. Sometimes a few simple third eye exercises might be all you need. Let's try one right here. Now, close your first 2 eyes, keeping your third eye wide open. I want you to focus first on the nearest microscopic sub-quantum scalar energy entity within your field of inner vision. Now, suddenly gaze upon the cosmological multiverse in its entirety. Then quickly focus back on the sub-quantum scalar entity. How did that work for you? Do this exercise 100 times and your third eye will be ready to zoom in and out on whatever astral or chakric realm your inner visioning and spiritual self-actualizationing requires. For well-beingness, healthiosity, and claritivity of your visionositization-ing-itude, don't come to the Infinite Vision Third Eye Hospital. You don't need to. I can remotely view you right now. Yes, I can. This is Dr. Sefan Sojka. Please, continue taking your clothes off and make yourself very, very comfortable.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachel Dunlop.
I'm here at TAM9 in Las Vegas outside the Grand Ballroom where SGU are currently doing a live podcast, and I'm with Captain Disillusion. Hi, Captain Disillusion.
Hi, Dr. Rachie. Nice to be with you.
How are you going? How are you enjoying TAM?
It's a lot of fun. This time, for the first time, I'm an exhibitor, so I'm here with a table, and I'm still learning the ropes with this whole thing. I don't get a chance to see as much presentations, but the things I've snuck into have been really interesting.
Well, Well, I should describe to our listeners that actually you're in full costume today, aren't you?
Yes, indeed. In the past, I've been sort of incognito, just sneaking in as a regular-looking individual, but I decided I should show myself in full force this time. So I look the way I look in my web series, Captain Disillusion, and people are coming by saying hello. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's nice to be recognized. Sometimes people are able to spot me even in my human look, but this is much easier.
Well, I recognised you in your human look yesterday because you once drove me to the train station in Florida and you weren't in your outfit then, so I know the secret identity of you.
That's right, and you better keep it to yourself.
I'm not saying anything. So you are. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit about Captain Disillusion, because it is a YouTube series, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, I started it a few years ago, and it's a funny web series where, as a wannabe skeptical superhero, I pick different viral videos that are popular online that feature paranormal stuff or something really unbelievable, and I deconstruct them. I look at what potential visual effects went into making them and why they may or may not be real, and kind of explain it to people in a really fun way where, I use humor and a lot of visual effects, explanations, and just keep it entertaining, but teach people something about skepticism at the same time.
So basically you're disillusioning people.
That's right. It's,
So you're the party people, right?
I am, but I try to do it in the maximum fun way possible, so I think they forgive me most of the time.
So what sort of topics have you covered in that?
I don't usually go for the heavy stuff, medical sort of pseudoscience and things like that. I just concentrate on things you could basically find on YouTube, just kind of learning to analyze electronic moving images, because that's important nowadays, because we live in an age where we can use computers to alter a lot of things, and it's hard to trust what you see. So I concentrate on that kind of thing. Yeah.
So how many series have you done now on YouTube?
Well, I have, it's like close to 20 videos, but some of them are sort of splits of, like a single episode might be split into multiple videos. So I am notorious for being very slow with coming out with new episodes, and that's partly because I'm, I try to keep such a high production value. I basically make like a mini movie every single time. And so I do have sort of a day job in my secret regular life, and so it's always a struggle to do this stuff, which I love, and also work from money.
So do you do all of the production yourself?
Yes, that's another reason why it takes a while, because I'm basically like a one-man production company. I do have a little bit of help often when I film them, because obviously there needs to be a camera person. But after that, I do all the editing, visual effects, sound, post-production work, by myself, just stage by stage. And I do enjoy it, but it's sort of like, you create that task list of what needs to be done, and it's like longer than your arm, and you just have to do it one by one.
So is your background in production and that sort of thing? How did you come to do this?
Well, yeah, I'm educated as a filmmaker. That was my major in college, and I've worked on films, and now, when I don't do Captain Disillusion, I essentially do the same kind of work for other people. So be it music videos or commercials, anywhere where I need to do some kind of visual effects work, editing, or even filming.
So in front of me I have a DVD which you're selling here at TAM. It's called Captain Disillusion Fame Curve Collection. What's on the DVD?
On the DVD are all the main episodes, so like basically all of the library that you will find on my YouTube channel, but sort of remastered in some cases in better quality, the earlier ones. And some of the episodes are combined. The ones that are split on YouTube into multiple pieces are combined into one, plus many, many extras like audio commentary. As I'm a filmmaker, other people interested in production stuff like to listen to the commentary from the filmmaker on the stuff. Plus behind the scenes, it's like the episode we did with James Randi, there's some behind the scenes stuff of that, some interviews, and a lot of interesting things. So I just thought I'd put it all together and just have it as one package for people who are already fans.
And you told me earlier that Richard Saunders has done something for one of your episodes. What did he do?
Yeah, that's right. Well, at TAM9, it was probably like the craziest experience for me, because I attempted to film a lot of material and make an episode out of that. It's actually the longest Captain Disillusion episode that I've ever done. And so I involved a lot of people from the skeptical community, and Richard was very nice to basically do he's the first person that appears, he's the first anything that appears in the beginning of that TAM9 episode, and he sort of introduces what happened previously, because it's important for people to know, previously on Captain Disillusion. That's essentially his line. And he was very nice. And since then, actually, on that same year, we both were judges on the talent show that was put on here. So I got to know him that year, and we had a lot of fun moments.
And what about the James Randi episode? What did he do?
James Randi, I knew of Randi before, while I was beginning my web series. I wasn't really part of the skeptical community per se. I was just sort of peripherally aware of all this stuff. But as my first few videos got a little bit of traction, I actually received a phone call from James Randi himself. He called me and said that he's seen some episodes and was very impressed by them, and invited me to the JREF to meet, and that's how we met. Yeah,
it was awesome.
It was very exciting. Yeah, and I knew who he was, but I wasn't like I said, part of the movement. So it was very bizarre for me that this happened. But I kind of, through that event, I got introduced into the full swing of the movement, and attended TAM shortly after that. And so as we kind of knew each other, I am also, what's important to know is that I am pretty close to where the James Randi Foundation is based, or was based until now, I suppose, in South Florida. So I'm within driving distance from the James Randi library. And I just came to them and suggested, what if Randi was guest starring in an episode? He has experience being on camera and acting. And that's what we did. We did a funny spoof of the movie Contact, based on the Carl Sagan book. He was really great. On my DVD, there's a behind the scenes of that whole shooting process. We had a blast doing that.
Wow, well, that should be worth buying the DVD just for that. And so you actually look like Zach Braff on the cover of this DVD, I think.
I get it's interesting. Online, I keep being compared to people. I got Zach Braff a few times. I also get, what's his name? There's a singer, Rick Astley, the one that...
Rick Astley?
Astley, yes. I don't know why. I think it's something with the shape of the hair, but I get some strange comparisons sometimes. But thank you. I guess that's a compliment. He's a pretty accomplished comedian. So
where can our listeners find out more about your work?
I have a website, CaptainDisillusion.com, but they can always go to YouTube and just search for Captain Disillusion. All of my stuff comes right up. And I hope people keep watching. While I am a little bit slow coming out with episodes, I'm working on ways to do that faster and to keep the same level of quality. So I hope people keep watching.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today, and have a great rest of TAM9.
Thank you so much. You too.
This is Eugenie Scott, National Center for Science Education. You can find us at www.ncsc.com. Come see us if you want to know anything about the creationism and evolution conflict in the United States, or more's the pity internationally these days. We are a clearinghouse for information on this vexing but certainly very interesting problem. Come and find out more about it.
Join us now for Drinking Skeptically in the Think Tank.
Now, the avid Skeptic Zone listener, and I hope you're all avid Skeptic Zone listeners, would have heard Maynard's interview last week with Jabba. What a funny name for somebody. I'm with Maynard right now. That's a funny name for somebody too.
Well, we both have single names, which is interesting. Now, I worked with Jabba as a VJ on the Australian music channel, Channel V, which was in Australia before MTV actually was, and it's more of our homegrown one. And we're both presenters there, and he was called Jabba because he got that, I don't know, it was a bit of a nickname as he was a kid, and I got the Maynard nickname in 1980 when I was with the band. So we both got those solo names then. It's great, like Madonna, or Cheese, or Cheese.
Cheese?
Cheese, yeah. If you go into a shop, I'd like some cheese. You don't say, I'd like cheese, that's what I do, and I assume it's cheese.
And you get cheese. That's very good. But we were just discussing the way in some people present paranormal on television. And some of the comments that you've been receiving about this, because you've been posting up things about this on your various outlets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, on the Planet Maynard blog that I do every once in a while for the ABC, there was an interesting. The very first comment after I did the interview with Jabba was from someone who has some expertise in Yowie research, and he said he was really sick of low-grade personalities just poking fun at the paranormal on Australian television, and he used as example Jabba on National Geographic Channel. Although he seemed to think that Jabba was on the ABC. No, Jabba is an employee of Foxtel. And Lawrence Leong on the ABC with his show Unbelievable. And he thought that both of them didn't do the justice to the paranormal. Now, you yourself are a presenter on a commercial show about the paranormal. Yeah. And so what do you think... Well, he was saying it wasn't being done justice. How could you do justice to exploring the paranormal and make it interesting for everybody out there?
It's a really good question. Yes, I mean, we both have to be a bit careful in what we say, Maynard, because we both are involved in television and radio networks and things like that. But to my way of thinking, I would like to see a show which probably wouldn't work because it might be a little bit dull, where people claiming psychic ability were thoroughly tested. And that means doing the same test multiple times and gathering statistics. Unfortunately, I think it might send the audience to sleep.
Well, I think you'd have to talk to James Randi about that, because I believe that's exactly what he's done over the years, except he hasn't made it for television for everything. But he's obviously came up with a blank every time, and maybe it's just in the editing. But it would be expensive, and also some of the things that the paranormal claims are very difficult and expensive to test. I mean, ghost hunting, I mean, it's hard to get a result there.
It's very difficult to test, difficult to test. But if somebody claimed that they could predict the roll of a dice, for example, you could test that.
But then it would probably just become a show about probability, which would be interesting for mathematicians and for as many skeptics out there.
Yeah, I've been dealing with probabilities a lot over the last couple of months filming The One, of course, because a lot of the challenges that our contestants have been doing come back to probability. And in my position, I'm trying to find a baseline. Well, what do I judge this against? If they have a certain amount of success in a certain test, well, what's the baseline? How do we know how far that deviates from the normal? And a lot of people have been looking at me saying, you and your statistics again. But it's like, well, what else do I say? You know?
Look, and also, I think Jabba was trying to make an entertainment show. And also, the only problem I had with my interview with Jabba is that his use of the word nut jobs about the people fairly early on in the interview there.
That's a good point.
And I didn't pick him up on that just because like I like to do with interviews, I like people you to get the feel of what they are, and that's probably the only thing. And like he said, he reckons he's a nut job too. So what he was actually saying about them probably wasn't as strong as it might have sounded. But I think he went into let's talk to these sort of wacky people that have these beliefs.
I think so.
And I think the show is a good start, but I would like to see these people, and you skeptics are going to hate me for this, I'd like to see these people treated with a little bit more respect.
Oh, no, I'm with you there. And Randy has the same attitude. I mean, if you're going to test somebody, you treat them with respect, and you don't lie to them, you don't make up stupid things that they can't possibly do. And you test them to their claim. If they claim they can predict the roll of the dice, that's what you test. It's like saying if somebody came and said, I'm a great concert pianist, I can play wonderful music, it's incredible. You say, oh yeah, that's really great. Here's a guitar. Prove to me that you're a musician. It's ridiculous, right? So if someone comes and says I can predict the roll of the dice, or someone says I can bend metal, then we won't say to them, really? Wow, we can test your paranormal ability. Here's the deck of cards. Yeah. No, that's a different, it's completely different. Now, listeners may be a bit concerned that there's a lot of funny noises. I'll set the scene. We're in a nice pub in Glebe, here in Sydney, called the Toxteth, where I used to come here 20 years ago when I worked in the area.
Until he was banned after what has become known here in Glebe as the incident.
The incident, that's right. Well, it's the 20-year period is over now, and I can come back.
That's
and
right.
we're right next to the kitchen, so that's why you're hearing those noises.
So I have to excuse that. And I'm all just saying I want to encourage people to put comments onto the Skeptic Zone blog about the show and what they think. I mean, I'm sure many of you don't agree with us, and some of you do. And just fire it up there. Make it a real vibrant community.
Had some nice comments, people at the amazing meeting. Quite a few people came up to us and said how much they enjoyed the show. And one very nice person came up and said that you were the best thing that happened to the show in the last year. So I'm resigning, and you...
well, they're obviously delusional, but I think it is nice that Brian Dunning does say that kind of thing about me.
It was Brian Dunning, come to think about it.
And also, I think the latest episode of Skeptoid that's just been on recently had 3 or 4 Australians in it, and even some people from Newcastle.
It did. I thought that was fantastic. So, yes, Brian does have a lot of listeners in Australia, and we want to try and organise for him to come back.
Well, that'd be great. I mean, look, for a start, he's got to pay his bar tab, so he's got to come back into the country to pay that, or else he just won't be allowed in, and I can hardly wait to see him. I mean, so basically what the messages we're getting here is be more proactive on our comments board. We sometimes we get a few comments for shows, and the most shows that have got the most comments have been when I spoke to Jessica Adams, who was still my friend, by the way.
That got a lot of comments. The astrologer, yes.
Yep, and the Adam Curry one, that got a lot of comments too. The one on 60 Minutes when there was the anti-vaccination story, that got a lot of interesting comments as well. And what do you think actually over the entire history of the Skeptic Zone, because I've only been involved recently, has fired up the audience the most?
I think the Jessica Adams one probably got the most comments. I did an episode very early on in the series, 4 or 5 weeks into doing the show, which was a debate between a skeptic and a Christian, which in retrospect I probably wouldn't do again because it was a bit of a cop-out. I just played a debate, and that got a few comments by people saying, why are you playing this? And the quality wasn't so good. But I don't know. We'll look for the next thing to really get our listeners to write in or get angry about something. I sort of avoided climate change because that brings out a lot of very strange people.
Look, it is very divisive. And look, and I myself, I'm continually revisiting that because I want to know the science on both sides and everything all the time. And and particularly in Australia, where there's a carbon tax tied to that policy as well, that is affecting the way people and what industry they live in, they work in. For example, I have some friends in Newcastle that make train wheels. Now, you might not know that we actually make train wheels in Australia anymore. We still make cars down in South Australia, Melbourne, and around there. But in Newcastle, we used to have a vibrant steel industry, and pretty much train wheels and train carriages and a few other things is what we make. And all those guys who make train wheels, and there'd be many of them. I've only been into one shop there. They think that if the carbon tax comes in, that they will lose their jobs because the train wheels will become slightly more expensive. And at the moment, China is getting so close to their price and being able to do it quickly. Like at the moment, they used to make the axles for the train wheels in the factory right next door to where they make the wheels. They can now import those axles from China to go on the train wheels cheaper than they can make it in the factory right next door to where the train wheels are made. Now, and so when people working in that industry see that kind of thing going on, they would worry about their job, and that's understandable from a human level. So when you've got that kind of emotion involved in this science, you can see why it fires up.
It does. But in all my years of doing skeptical investigations and in the biz, as you might say, this climate change issue, especially when so many people label themselves or a movement as climate change skeptics, and it gets completely mixed up and confused and muddled up with paranormal, scientific skeptics. So many people have asked me or told me, why are you skeptical of climate change? I said, we're not those skeptics. They're just people using the word. And another argument I get is you skeptics, you're so silly. You used to think the world was flat. And this facepalm. What? But skeptics thought the world was flat? What? Or you skeptics used to burn witches.
I thought it was mainly the Christians who used to...
Exactly.
But then again, maybe they were skeptical Christian witch burning. Maybe they just wanted to get the cat off the woman. I mean, but basically, I don't get into the climate change argument because I've read it, and frankly, I don't understand it. I believe it. I believe personally...
I'm with you. I don't know enough about it.
I believe personally it's probably happening. But when I go and start to read the evidence about it from either side, my small ape brain gets freaked out pretty much. Yeah.
Now the mere fact that we've discussed it will probably have people writing in. The other issue that riled people up, which we only touched on very briefly on the think tank once, was atheism.
and people whinging back and forth about that. And that got people riled up and ready to go. So it's really interesting to know what topics get people going.
But because, like, as a relatively newcomer and someone who's only just sort of hanging out with Skeptics recently, and exactly, and I don't know a lot of stuff in this area, and as someone, I would now call myself an atheist rather than an agnostic, from just listening and thinking things through. But I can see believing in a God would cause a problem with some skeptics, because it's a dichotomy going on there. But then again, you can't test faith.
And then again, there are. What I do is I leave the climate change and the atheism. I leave that as much as possible to other people who have a much bigger interest in those things than I do and know more. You know, what part of that being a skeptic is, well, you've got to know when you don't know.
Well, also I am very much an intellectual lightweight. And for that reason, I don't want to get involved in these discussions, because I know I'm going to say something stupid. And one of the things about being a funny guy is you know when not to say something that's not funny. And I tend to err on the conservative side of not saying anything. Simple as that.
Probably a good policy.
How many times have we heard someone say something that they probably should have shut up? But then again, also when you get on the edge of ideas, that's when new things are found as well.
Yeah. Well, another topic that's actually you don't hear about anymore, that a lot of people, 4 or 5 years ago, used to say to me, "Why are you people skeptical of the moon landing?"
That's right. And I was sceptical of the moon landing as well. And there are still a few issues with some of the cross-hatching on the photos, and there are some weird reflections that I'd like to see explained, but I'm pretty sure someone went there sometime.
I'm pretty sure they did.
And in fact, one of the things I enjoy about No Agenda is that they believe the initial ones were fake, but there are now many moon bases up there they aren't telling us about. And isn't that great? It's like what Jabber and I came to. It's like, wow, that is a mind-blowing thing. And, if it's not true, who cares? It's a nice little thing to have a play with your brain with.
It is. Well, Maynard, great to catch up with you. We must do these lunches more often.
And I will, and like I said, playing with the brain, having an open brain, I would have to quote Tim Mitchell there, but, if your mind is too open, your brain will fall down. That is a very good warning as well.
Cheers, Maynard.
This is an EVP I recorded last night.
How you doing? I'm a ghost. What's up?
You guys can't possibly ignore that type of it. Hey, who are you? What are you doing in my... Oh!
EVPs are the result of pareidolia and cross-modulation combined with the listener's hopes and expectations.
What does this have to do with science?
I think you just got skeptically pwned. Well, gotta go. See you in hell.
666.
SkepticallyPwned.com.
Where false claims get kicked in the nuts.
And now we pick up the action at TAM9 in Las Vegas, where the Skeptics Guide to the Universe crew kindly invited me to be their guest auctioneer at the dinner. We're about to hear the bidding for the prize of being a guest rogue on SGU.
Okay, the final auction of the bid. And again, something I can attest to is a rare privilege and an awful lot of fun. You get to be a guest rogue on SGU. You can be there for the entire episode and make fun of Jay. This is valid for a year. 1 year. It's one of the best prizes money can buy, and we're going to start the bidding at $100. I'm sorry, I'm really jet lagged. The call was 1,200 is now the call. I should be jet lagged more often, I reckon. 1,300 and 2 spoons. The call is $1,300 and some cutlery. $1,300, ladies. $1,400. $1,450 and 3 spoons. A serious bid. $1,450 is the bid. $14.50. That's worth an applause. That's fantastic. One of the greatest things you can do as a fan of the show, the bid is $14.50 and it's going once. $1,600. It's a stereo bid, but I think this bid was possibly higher. What was your bid, sir? 16? 1,800. We're in uncharted waters, ladies and gentlemen. We are You're $1,800 and 5 spoons. This gentleman is bidding. You will now. $1,800. What a fantastic bid. And it's going once. 2,000. Yeah. $2,100, ladies and gentlemen. A fantastic bid. $2,100 is the call. It's going once. 2,200.
We're officially over our highest bid. This is
2,200. Is that the latest call I had? 2,200 going once. Let's not muck about. $2,200 going twice. I'll take that. $2,250. $2,250 going once. $2,300 is the call, ladies and gentlemen. I get $2,300. $2,300 going once. 23 going twice. $2,500. This is repetitive, isn't it? $2,500 going once, going twice. $2,600. You won't let me finish, will you? $2,600, and that's going once. That's going twice. Ladies and gentlemen, $2,600. Once again, the Skeptics Guide to the Universe have honoured me greatly by allowing me to be their auctioneer, and I thank them most sincerely, and I thank you most sincerely. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. My goodness me, that ham and hot English mustard and sourdough bread was good. Oh boy, I'll have to try to top that next week. A couple of things before I go. I finished filming, or the whole team, of course, has finished filming the TV series The One, which I've been a part of. Don't know when it's coming on air. Soon, I hope, and that'll be a lot of fun to see that being broadcast. I gave a lot of the people who worked there an interesting present as a little thank you from me. I went out the other day downtown Sydney and I bought a whole heap of D20s. Now, gamers out there will know exactly what I mean. These are 20-sided die. And I've got one right here in front of me I'm just looking at. They're about the same size as a regular dice, or die, but they've got 20 sides. So I thought, to me that represents, there he goes. To me it represents testing, skeptical testing. The key thing is have something that gives you a random number. And with that you can do a lot of tests when you're testing the paranormal. So I thought I'd do a little test with the listeners. I want you all to think of a number.
from 1 to 20. It can be 1, it can be 2, all the way up to 20 itself. Think hard. I'm going to roll my dice. My dice. I'll be honest and I'll tell you exactly what the number is, but I want you to think of a number right now. I'll give you a second. Okay, keep that number in your head. Here we go. 4. My goodness me, how could I do that? How did I know you were thinking of a 4? Well, at least 1 in 20 of you. The other thing I wanted to say was, I've just finished listening to the podcast from my dear friend George Hrab, the Geologic Podcast, episode number 225. If you're not a listener to the Geologic Podcast, then you should. You really should. geologicpodcast.com, or simply Google George Hrab, H-R-A-B. Without giving anything away, so to speak, I sincerely recommend you do listen to the Geologic Podcast, episode number 225. It's one of the most moving pieces of audio, broadcast, podcast, whatever you want to call it, that I've heard. And when you finish listening to the episode right to the end, you'll know why. And you'll know why I'm thinking of George at this time. I'll leave it at that. I recommend you have a listen. But until next week, and more reports from TAM Las Vegas, more Maynard, more everything, and a longer think tank, I hope. This is Richard Saunders, signing off. Oh, one more time. Come on, think of another number. Come on, all those people who didn't think of 4. Got it? Here we go. 10. Signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.